You have the exclusive, and it's even getting more
It's
camp
even
and
way better.
bizarre and weird.
I know, but I
Couple
like you,
steps.
so he picks the chapsticks.
Oh, I get another pick?
Yeah.
Well, let me deep down dark in the deep
don't have to go so deep.
recesses of the purse of that.
And
we
lately I've
put
been
out,
finding... You did this one last time. Do another one.
gosh, well, maybe that's my favorite one.
Lately I've been finding... I know. I probably should have just went with it, but oh well. There's 17 in there. I mean, just grab one. Okay, this one's okay. This one's pretty old. Again, I don't know how to read it, but the bottom of it is Spark Plug, and it's made by
Spark Plug, yeah.
Bare Minerals. It's amazing. I don't know if they even still sell it anymore. I bought it like 10 years ago. But anyways, I've been looking up wacky trends, makeup trends, and I came across this one, and I love it. For any of you those that love cereal and might be hungry, I think this one would be perfect for you. If my producer would flash it up if he has it. She took, this was in a Vogue magazine. It's a cornflakes. And then they made her, like, that is just the weirdest thing ever. And then other food items, too, are on there. And it's just, why would you?
I mean, yeah, some of the stuff they come up with. I mean,
what's your favorite cereal, though?
I don't know. I haven't eaten cereal since I don't even know how long.
Cornflakes? Look, you can have be a cupcake.
There you go. Probably
sweet.
Wheaties.
Look at that.
I'm going to
I mean, she has, what is on there? Maybe Lifesavers. I think I see candy corn, sprinkles. I don't know what the pink eyelashes are made out of.
Oh,
it looks like jelly beans. Makeup candy. Candy makeup.
That stuff is very unhealthy for you.
I know. She's not eating it. She's wearing it.
And it's not attractive to wear either.
Why not?
Because you look stupid if you're wearing that.
Well, that's just
Unlike you look very cute with your little
Thank
flower
you.
in your hair.
I like the cornflakes one, though. It feels like I feel like it's like summer today. I want it to be summery.
Yeah, when it's almost 100 degrees, I would say you're pretty right.
You know what? Cornflake. No. Is that offensive? I don't know what that means. Hopefully not. If I've had to use it. Slide guitar that comes across every 5 o'clock on Newswire Daily on Facebook and YouTube Live as we cover not only all the hopping events in the Inland Empire, but around the world. And boy, is the Inland Empire smoking from yesterday. That again, like I say, it's all COVID-19, 24/7, 365. You had scissors in your hand.
Well, because I'm about...
And earlier you were, like, pissed off, so I'm backing up a little bit.
Do you want to...
No, don't hand them to me. That's not going to be any better.
Yeah, well, I figured you might need... I'm offering you a defense in case, I go all... Texas,
you want me to stab you?
Texas Chainsaw Murderers or something.
Who the hell are you trying to murder?
That's about what I felt like when after the 11-hour marathon session that was went on at the Board of Supervisors. It was incredible. I mean, flat incredible. There was Karen Spiegel and Manny Perez, the chairman and vice chair of the board, put it on the agenda to rescind Dr. Cameron Kaiser's orders of doing that. Long story short, it gets down to nut-cutting time, as we say. And they say, well, we're going to vote against it. Well, what the hell was this little foray exercise all about? On top of that, you're not going to do what's right for the freaking citizens. But just because the teachers' unions are pissed off because they might have to go back to work,
the teacher unions aren't pissed off.
They were the ones
don't blame it on
in
the teachers.
Baloney, listen to the deal. They were in there calling in mass. Oh, don't remove the lockdown. Don't remove the order to ban the school, to shut down the schools, and that, and everybody's dangerous, and you're going to kill your mom, and yada, yada, yada. You know what? Teachers, and this is a fact. I'm going to say this is a fact. Teachers from the beginning, they eat first. They don't give a rip if you starve.
No, you can't blame it on the teachers like that.
I will.
My teachers that I know would never act like that.
Their union head.
Maybe the union head might be like that, but not. Don't speak for all teachers.
Called in to the program with this, and I will give you a little lesson in the law.
I'm gonna smack you in a minute.
Tacit agreement. Tacit agreement. So all your teachers at La Jolla Elementary School belong to the Moreno Valley Educators Association.
But you still
Harold
shouldn't be speaking for them.
Speaks for them unless they disagree with it, because this is the definition of a tacit agreement. If somebody or somebody says something or they're representing you and you do not disagree with it, you are agreeing with it. And let's roll back to the first of the start when Gavin Newsom said we're going to close down all the schools in mid-March, and the teachers union went ballistic and the school districts went ballistic. Oh, well, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for the teachers? And Gavin Newsom said, we, the state, will cover all the expenses, which were bleeding money all over the place, and probably will be paying for this for the rest of our lives. Then the teachers shut up. So again, like I said, the teachers eat first. The rest of you, we don't give a crap if you starve. And if you don't believe that, you better start speaking up, because that's what all your representatives in Riverside County were calling in to the supervisors meeting, and you can hear it. It's on tape on IEN. 100,000 views between our three broadcasts of the rally outside and part 1s and 2s of the meetings and the replay. That is what kind of attention was getting. And you know what? About the only ones, again, that were calling in were school teacher union representatives across Riverside County boo-hooing this thing and saying you can't rescind the order, and then it went downhill for them. So I'm giving them the chance. They can call in, write in, go down
Carla
to the...
put, no, not true. Teachers have a salary and get paid no matter what. Which she is right. I mean, why would teachers... I think any teacher... and like thinking of how my teachers are talking, so I'm not speaking for all the teachers, but it is so much harder for them to teach how they are now versus being in the classroom. I don't think any teacher would want that. And Stephen writes in, what about Teacher Appreciation Day? Appreciate your teachers, damn it.
When they start standing up for freedom and liberty in this country, in this state, in this county, yes. When they're backing down and putting draconian measures and bankrupting us, no.
It has nothing to do with the teachers.
Their unions were the ones that were in force out amongst this, killing this. You know why there's still a mask in there? It's because the teachers' union.
No.
Their representatives called up. Now, how do you dispute that? It's on tape.
But you can't blame it all just on the teachers.
That is their representative.
That was planned. Watch.
Yes, and they're not.
But not by the teachers. You're
only
blaming
one.
the teachers.
Steve Campos of, I think he lives in Riverside, but teaches down in Murrieta. He spoke up against this. So Steve Campos is on the record of saying, no, I don't agree with this. Again,
but you can't and think that teachers are going to stop their day to go down there to fight for hours.
They all called in.
People do stuff.
What are they doing? They're sitting at home. Most of them called in.
Most of the people don't even know that all this is going on.
Yes, they do.
No,
they called
don't.
in. They know now. They have an
they're watching.
They know now. And there is an opportunity on Friday at 1 o'clock because this issue has been continued. So you have the opportunity to make your voice heard. We're not playing this game again, like with the cops and the firefighters and everything else. Well, we didn't know, and they're lying. Well, you know now.
If you're watching.
Everywhere. It's on tape. There is no excuse. There is nothing that has been more publicized than this, and especially this in Riverside County. Now, your teachers' unions and teachers en masse, and that's the only one I know of is Steve Campos out of whatever we got, 10,000 teachers in Riverside County that stood up against this. So the rest of you are agreeing with it unless you put it on the record. It's your opportunity. If you want your schools open, if you want this mass stuff to go away, if you want your county, your freedom, your country back, you better start standing up. Because they are killing you. And I put the scientific studies and data before them en masse. You got them. You were included in the emails that all the information I sent. Yes.
Was I supposed to read that? Crap.
They had that. That was part of my. That was part of my 2-minute.
I'm busy being a teacher, and I'm highly offended right now.
Part of my 2-minute public comments at that actually they quoted me as the pro side in the Press Enterprise in the Jeff Horseman article on that. So there you go. There's the quote of that. Roll up to where I'm quoted. First person quoted in the Jeff Horseman article on the 11th hour meeting planned to rescind the mask that didn't go anywhere. Would you like to read my quote?
No, I don't.
Please.
No, I'm not reading your quote.
Let freedom ring, which was my first quote. Roy Bleckert said, you can live in fear. You can suppress the people, and you will live with the consequences of those decisions. Put up the picture of and run just a little bit of the silent video clip of that of me at the Board of Supervisors, because I want everybody to know on the record. Said I wasn't going to wear a mask. I was not going to wear a mask, and I would have went to jail if they wouldn't. Here you are. I'm standing addressing the board yesterday with no mask on there when I gave my public comments. And you know who else played? Just show the picture if you can of Chad Bianco of there on the other one when you get it up, when you start. Yeah, no big deal. Just whenever you get it up. Chad Bianco addressed the board with no mask, and he said essentially the same thing. He said, I am not enforce. He said, even if I could, I don't have the manpower to force this. And on top of that, it is wrong what you're doing. You're taking the freedoms and liberties away from the people. Stop this crap right now, and let's open up this county. Now, there is a leader, there is an elected official that's running it. Unlike the teachers union representatives, and specifically Moreno Valley Educators Association President Harold Acord, which was crying his little crocodile tears in there of oh, we can't open the schools, and oh, we're all going to die, and all we can't rescind the order. And, screw that. And every one of you that's a member of Moreno Valley Educators Association, you are supporting that unless you put it on the record that you are against it. We're going to bring on Susan Shelley, which we usually do once a week. She's the editorial writer of the Press Enterprise, a great newspaper that actually quotes yours truly.
Shut up!
From the meeting on the the only
Anybody else want to hit it, or is it just me?
Boy,
I don't know if I'm just grumpy today or if he's just driving me insane.
San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts, and about 10 gazillion papers across Southern California, but more important in my mind, Vice President of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome back to the show with Stephanie and Roy on IU Newswire Daily.
Susan, help me please and take over his show.
I'm not. Great to talk to you.
There she is.
There you go. We finally got you.
I was worried
on that. I'm sure you. I would imagine that you paid attention to the 11-hour marathon session to rescind the mask in Riverside County. All that.
I sure did. I sure did.
That went totally haywire on that. First off, Manny Perez and Karen Spiegel would put the item on the agenda, decided they weren't going to vote for it when it come down to that. But even more important, and I think with this, there's only one supervisor I saw, and the first one to take off his mask, like yours truly did when he addressed the Board of Supervisors, and Sheriff Chad Bianco, I might add. Jeff Hewitt took off his mask during the proceedings, and then proceeded to stand up for the citizens of this country. And I quote what he said, because there was a discussion going on about golf and this and that, and we opened the door, and he said, I don't give a rat's ass about golf. I am concerned about the 2.5 million people in Riverside County, and they are starving to death. They need to go back to work, and we need to end this madness. What do you say, Susan?
Amen. Amen. That we need to end this madness. We've been saying it week after week. It gets worse and worse. Millions of people filing unemployment claims in California. $2 billion with a B going out in unemployment checks just since Sunday. That's what the governor said today. That's $2 billion in less than a week that we're spending on unemployment benefits that we shouldn't have to pay because people should be able to work. This is senseless. This is senseless.
I put amongst that, I put together, I think 4 separate emails. Included in that were links to data experts refuting most of the studies and everything that Dr. Cameron Kaiser was using, or I don't know, we haven't got the documents, or his summations that we've been doing through. Put them before the board. And that was the impetus of my quote that was quoted by Jeff Horstman in the press enterprise of that. I told him, I said, you have the information now. You cannot deny it. And Jeff Hewitt made the rendition about that. Even he said, when they first came to us and the doctor was up there saying 4,000 people could die in Coachella Valley, which is like less than 10% of our population, they were scaring us to death. Your data, as Jeff Christensen, our treasurer, called into the meeting, said, if my numbers was wildly off as your projections, I would be fired immediately.
And rightly so. And rightly so. And did you see what happened to Neil Ferguson, who is the guy in London at Imperial College who was responsible for this model, which projected that 2.2 million people in the United States would die if nothing was done, and if we took all the mitigating measures, it would still be 1 million people dead. You know what happened to him? He was just forced to resign because he cheated with somebody else's wife in the middle of the lockdown, and at his house, he invited her over, he sent her home, she has kids. In the middle of the lockdown, this terrible crisis, this terrible virus, and here's this guy who said that we must lock down the whole world, and he's using it as an opportunity to fool around. Why? Because he knows it's not that lethal for younger, healthier people. It's nothing. It's a cold. It's the virus that didn't bark, essentially. This is not what they told us it would be. And, you can see the anger coming out in the Orange County supervisors. I haven't seen it yet in the LA County supervisors. They're still on board with this for whatever reason. But in Orange County, 2 of them interceded and stopped the health department from finding a restaurant in San Clemente that decided to open no matter what. And they said, you're not pulling the license and you're not fining them. And they interceded with the health department to protect that restaurant owner. So they're angry. Those are the actions of people who were lied to, and they're angry about it.
Exactly. 2 things. One in Texas, Texas, there was a judge that put a salon owner in jail for a week, or sentenced her to 7 days in jail, and that fining her $500 of that for opening 2 days early because she's starving and her kids are starving to death and everybody working for her. And much to the credit of the Attorney General and Greg Abbott, they said, no, we don't think we're going to be doing this and that. The same thing, there was a barber shop that opened up in Orange County here recently, and, the little, I don't want to say what I'm thinking, but, those people with their little cell phones and then, they're opening up, So the sheriff said, we have to come out and, because the complaint was, but we don't see nothing going wrong out here. And in fact, one of the sheriffs, I think, said, what's your hours? I want to come in here and make an appointment to get my hair cut.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly heading in that direction, and I think that the reason for continuing the lockdown is becoming more and more questionable. We saw today that New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said the city cannot afford to open unless it gets $7 billion from the federal government. It cannot afford to open. Well, what he's saying is, I'm holding my city hostage until I get a federal check. And why are they in this much fiscal trouble? Obviously, some cities are in worse trouble than other cities, and it's the ones that have the ones that are totally controlled by public employee unions and have these unaffordable contracts and these padded payrolls. They're the ones that are in the worst fiscal difficulty. And they are using this lockdown as leverage to try and get a check from the federal government. But Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump are not buying it. So my theory is that they have forced these city mayors, de Blasio was the first, to admit what's going on here, that they're holding people hostage not for health reasons, but because they want a check from the federal government. And they are going to create this crisis and make it worse and worse for people until they get it. But that's just playing into the Republicans' hands for the election, because now they can say they admitted it, they're incompetent, I bailed you out, the other taxpayers shouldn't have had to, but I'm not going to let you suffer. Trump's a hero for signing the check. De Blasio looks like a crook for holding the city ransom. This is so unspeakable, what's going on in this country. This has nothing to do with health anymore.
There you go.
For 2 weeks.
I think we got a questioner.
No, we have Gretchen wrote in, which I find this to be kind of fascinating. It's going to change the subject a little bit. She put, the goal is vaccine, a 3-needle shot that will allow genetic mutation. And she put a link for a YouTube video and says to watch 4 minutes in, or 4 minutes total, I'm not sure. And then Scott writes in, Texas Governor Dan Patrick paid the $7,000 fine of the arrested salon owner, offers her to serve jail sentence so she can work from the Daily Wire.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Oh, the polls came in.
Yes. That's what they said. They were completely against this judge of doing that like that in Orange County and stuff. But you mentioned the public employee unions I started off. In California, and it was, if you listen to the hearing at the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, it was the school teacher union representatives, school board members calling in, oh, please don't open the schools, it's dangerous, and probably hijacked the meeting or got it done like that. And I'm saying this, teachers are telling Californians, we eat first, we don't care if you starve to death. Because when this first started, and Gavin Newsom, over a month ago, Gavin Newsom said we're going to close the schools, and the teachers unions go, well, who's going to pay for the teachers' salary? Oh, well, we'll cover it all. They shut up. We're getting paid. We don't care what happens to anybody else. And if this isn't a prime number one example of that, I don't know what is.
Well, do you remember how they picked on, I think it was Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, when during the government lockdown, he said that all these government workers who were without their paycheck could get a swing loan from their banks because obviously they were going to be made whole at the end of the lockdown. They weren't out the money. He said they can just go get loans from the bank. Well, he was just regarded as some sort of Marie Antoinette for saying that. Now, how unfeeling and how uncaring that he tells these government workers they can get a loan. When the government workers were without their paycheck, it was portrayed like the apocalypse.
Yes.
And now you've got 30 million Americans who filed unemployment claims, and it's, oh, well, it's so inconvenient to stay at home, too bad. And that's the attitude from the press and from the government workers. I don't understand. Well, I shouldn't say that. I do understand. The liberal left has lost the White House. They've lost the Senate. They've lost the courts. And they're increasingly losing the courts. And if they're going to push their socialist agenda, they're out of places to do it, aren't they?
Exactly. That's been my point on that. And I wanted you to chime in on that because me and Stephanie were having a little lively discussion about that beforehand of that. But I want to get one fine point. We got about 2 or 3 minutes left, but I want to get you this, and I've been getting everybody's opinion on that, and most people are concurring. I think Gavin Newsom, Dr. Kaiser, and Jeff Hewitt pointed this out. He said, I was even kind of buying into it. They were scaring me to death, but the numbers haven't come out. It's time to put us back to work. I think Newsom, Cuomo, de Blasio, they are so invested in this thing right now. Their ego will not let them admit they were wrong. They're going to do everything they can to prove that they were right because I'm sure they know they're very politically savvy, if nothing else. When this house of cards finally falls and the truth really comes out, being in a heap of trouble is probably going to be the best thing that they can hope for.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a national riot. And when the American voters riot, it's very quiet and it's very vicious. And you're going to see it at the polls, probably this November and certainly in 2 years when some of these people who are doing this in California are on the ballot again. You're going to see this. It will not go unnoticed. I think they've woken up a sleeping giant of an entire generation that has not paid much attention to local politics. In fact, just of all generations, a lot of people don't pay attention to local politics. I mean, anybody who's run for the Assembly or the State Senate will tell you that they go out on the campaign trail, they talk to people, and it's like, well, what does the Assembly do? They don't really follow local politics very much at all. But now, they're awake. This is a whole new ballgame, and I think you're going to see, eventually, we're going to look back on this and see a political tectonic shift happening right now. I'm confident of that. I have a little bit of news for you.
Go ahead.
If anyone listening had a problem paying the April 10th property tax installment, initially the governor refused to do an executive order waiving those penalties for being late on the April 10th deadline, but today he did. So the penalties are not waived, but you can contact the county treasurer tax collector, and you can ask about the process. If you've had economic hardship from the COVID-19 crisis and you missed the April 10th deadline and you're stuck with a 10% penalty, that penalty can be waived. So go to hjta.org, that's the Howard Jarvis website, hjtaorg.org, and click the information button at the top. You'll see a red flashing light. And that will take you to a page with all the treasurer tax collectors in the state of California, and call the one for your county and ask what the process is, and you can get relief from those penalties.
There you go. That's very important information. And to get that information and keep that information going, and on top of that, defend not only your liberties, but the impending doom that's going to be coming to California, because you know what they're going to be coming up with next, and I'll let Susan fill it in on that. And this is why you should be joining the Howard Jarvis. If there was ever a reason or more important time to be joining the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, this is the moment. Tell them how to do it and why.
Join HJTA. Go to hjta.org and click the link that says Join Us. It's only $15 a year, and you will strengthen the voice of taxpayers in California. And the reason you need to do that is because this fall there are 2 ballot initiatives that have already qualified for the ballot, and they would both raise property taxes. One would raise property taxes on every business in California to market value, all the properties reassessed to market value and taxed on that basis for the future, continuously reassessed to market value, a huge destructive tax increase on every job creator in the state. And the other one, which comes to us from the California Association of Realtors, would eliminate the exclusion from reassessment when you inherit property or transfer between parents and children. Currently, that doesn't count as a change of ownership, and it's not reassessed. This would repeal that protection, and it would cause inherited property to be reassessed to market value unless the person to whom it's transferred moves into it as a principal residence. So we want to defeat both of those. We do not want higher property taxes in California. So go to hjta.org, join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, sign up for the email alerts. We will keep you informed.
You got it. Thanks for being on. We'll do it again next week.
Bye, Susan.
Bye, Stephanie. Thanks, Roy.
Steven wrote in and asked, Roy, what do you want to do now?
We need to flood Friday at 1 o'clock with pitchforks and torches until the other 4, sans Kevin Jeffries, Chuck Washington, Karen Spiegel, and Manny Perez, start rescinding, not only rescind the ban, we want to aggressively pursue that. We want
30
to
seconds,
open
guys.
up
30
Riverside County on that, give Gavin Newsom the middle finger and say, come after us if you think you're badass enough to do it. But we are opening Riverside County as of this hour, this minute, this day, and we're getting on to the way it was before March 19th, 2020.
Woohoo, here we go.
AM.com and download your free phone app today.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every 5:30 Monday through Friday on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire. And as we have already done, as we start live at 5 on IE Newswire on Facebook Live and YouTube, it's IE Newswire Daily on a Wicked Wednesday. You almost blew that one.
I know,
but
I
you
totally
caught
did.
it
I
on
did.
that-
Yeah,
that.
it was
Yay,
great.
Yes.
You can also go to KMET1490am.com and catch the live stream on there as well.
We're smoking today. As we previewed in the first half hour, we had Susan Shelley on. We should have Dr. Kelly Victory coming on here in a couple of minutes. But the 11-hour marathon session at
Did it really go 11 hours long?
Yes.
11
hours of that. Read the article I'm quoted in. That's the headline.
You were quoted in an article?
Yes, in the
Which
Press
one?
Enterprise.
Really?
Yes.
Oh. What is that? Is that like a newspaper or something?
Something like that. Those old antique things.
I wonder what they're made out of. What? Oh.
Well, at least you know you look very cute with the flower in your hair.
Thanks. You look.
At least you
You look
got
like
the,
Roy.
Well, yeah. At least you got the San Francisco hippie look from the '60s going on.
There
right
we
here
go.
today. Of that. We're gonna roll in that. Just a brief overview on those for those who are joining us on 1490 KMET. Brief overview. You heard 11-hour session down in at the Riverside County Board of Supervisors to rescind the draconian lockdown measures of the odious health official, Dr. Cameron Kaiser of Riverside County. It was put on by Manny Perez, chairman of the board, and vice chair Karen Spiegel, who were indicating they were supporting it. And when it came down to nut-cutting time, they said they were not going to support it. The whole thing fell apart. They're continuing it till Friday on 1 o'clock. It is very important, in my opinion, that everybody rally the troops, that you flood the Board of Supervisors, and the four, sans Jeff Hewitt, the four wafflers that could not make a decision, and with one message in mind. Either you start opening this county up right now, this minute, or we are coming after you with every legal means we can, because we've had enough. We're not locking down our communities. We're not letting the teachers say we eat first, and the hell with the rest of you
It's
out
not the
there
teachers.
on there, and we're done with this. You
Stop
either get
blaming
it
the
done now,
teachers.
you tell Gavin Newsom, screw you, we're opening up this county, we're opening up our schools and everything else. That's what I said. I sent them tons of information before this meeting. I said that, which I'm quoted in the Press Enterprise on that, of how that they are going to have to live with the decision they made, because they no longer can say, we didn't know, or we didn't have the studies, or we didn't do that. So to make some sense, hopefully, of all of this, one of our premier experts is coming on. She's a trauma surgeon, disaster preparedness expert, consultant to major corporations, and been on the show many times. Dr. Kelly Victory, you're on the air with Stephanie and Roy.
Hey, great to be with you guys, and thanks for having me. Roy, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think this is a time when it is really critical for people to take action. We're at a point where people have got to speak up about what's going on in their local municipalities, and what's happening in Riverside County is a great example of it. I spent quite a bit of time speaking with Riverside Supervisor Jeff Hewitt recently, and Jeff really, I believe, is very much on board with what we're talking about in terms of, number one, the unconstitutionality of what these guys are doing with these mandates to close businesses and wear face masks and all of this craziness. But, as importantly, that this stuff is simply not based in science. And my role, as much as possible, is to try to educate people. I am devoid of politics on this. This is about the science, what we know about pandemics, what we know about viruses, what we know about how to control contagious diseases, and what we are doing in most of the country simply is not based in sound science. And there is no reason at this point, frankly, at any point, for people who are healthy, people who are not at risk, to be, continuing to shelter in place, to wear face masks, to do this social distancing ridiculousness. So I am hopeful that if people can educate themselves and we can make enough noise, that our local governments will have to fall in line.
I was again. It was like surprising. When do you ever hear the treasurer tax collector of a county like John Christensen of Riverside County did call in about this on a matter like this? I mean, but he amongst giving the dire warnings of saying if you don't open this thing up, we're not going to have any money to hardly do anything. I think his money quote was, "If I was off on the numbers as far off as they were on the projections, I would be fired in a New York second."
Well, you better believe it, Roy. You can't be this wrong. If every day I laugh, or every week when they come out with the IHME says we've, quote, updated our models. Says updated the models. For the love of God, you couldn't be more wrong. I don't want to hear about your models. I don't want, because you've lost all credibility in our books. This isn't a question of we don't know about this virus anymore. I was standing outside my local Wells Fargo branch this morning, 6 feet apart on some stupid X that they put on the, with electrical tape, wearing a face mask like a little sheeple because I don't want to be arrested. And I heard a woman pontificating. Everyone, by the way, has become an armchair expert, medical expert now during this whole thing. And every Facebook mom out there is lecturing on the street corner while she's waiting to get to the bank like I am. And I heard a woman saying, well, the really scary thing about this virus is it's a novel virus. And therefore your body, your immune system has no idea how to respond to it. And I thought, these are the sorts of misconceptions, bad science, Roy, that is allowing people to make bad decisions and continue things like the mandates to socially distance or to wear face masks. Let me just, bust that myth for you. Yes, COVID-19 is, quote, a novel coronavirus, meaning we haven't seen this specific one before. But to make the comparison to say that, therefore, our immune systems wouldn't have any idea how to handle it is patently absurd. It would be similar to my saying, I'm walking down the street and there's someone coming towards me and I've never seen that person before, so I have no idea how to interact with them. When I see someone I've never met before, I certainly know they're not a palm tree. I know they're not a cow. I know they're a human. I know they're white, black, male, female, tall, thin. I know a lot of things about them, even though I've never met that particular individual before. And I sure as heck have a very good idea of how to start interacting with them. It's the same thing with your immune system. You don't have to have seen COVID-19 to be able to mount an immune response to it, which is why we all don't drop dead when we come in contact with every new pathogen. So, I would maintain that what we have been doing for the most of us who aren't in that very small risk category, we're doing the worst possible thing we could, which is stay indoors, letting our immune systems actually shut down rather than ramp up. We are doing the worst possible thing by not getting outside, not exercising, not being exposed to sunlight and warm temperatures. And we have got to stop this, let alone all of the devastation that we've done to the economy, which will end up being far more deadly than anything that we will have from the virus itself.
The law of holes. When you're in one, stop digging. It's a very simple.
I'm learning it.
It's a very simple concept, but boy, is it very hard for people to grasp a hold of this. And I think from Dr. Camion Kaiser to Gavin Newsom to Manny Perez and a lot of people in between there, I think they are so invested in this thing, their ego will not let them turn loose of it, and they got to prove the justification of their actions. And just instead of stepping up to the plate and saying, you know what, we blew this. It wasn't nowhere near what we are. We're sorry. And now we are going to proceed looking at the data and the science, and we're going to proceed logically from this point forward. I don't think if we don't get to that conversation, if we still keep going, if we still are just debating the science and the data, we're really in deep trouble.
I agree with you, and I think one of the marks, I teach a course on leadership in times of crisis, and one of the marks of a really great leader, Roy, is someone who can make a decision, and then as data starts coming in or new facts are made known, they are able to say, we need to change directions. They don't need to save face. They can say, wow, we were wrong, need to make a new plan, retreat, and here's why. And one of the things that I've appreciated about Supervisor Jeff Hewitt is that he is at least willing to listen to the new information and say, not we need to ease back into it, or we now need to slow, soft reopening, we need to do a slow rollout, or all of this craziness. Just admit it. We've made a mistake. This was handled incorrectly. We're doing the wrong things, and we are now going to change direction. One of the most refreshing things of that entire meeting in front of the county supervisors that you were talking about with Manny Perez was the sheriff who, stood up and read a statement saying essentially that he was not going to enforce what he sees as unconstitutional mandates against businesses or individuals, that he has told his officers not to enforce it, and that furthermore, he is in lockstep with what I've been saying all along, that we don't need to go back to a, quote, new normal, meaning opening businesses but socially distancing, opening restaurants but still wearing face masks, no, we need to go back to normal. Not some new version of normal, the normal that we fought for in this country, for the rights, the civil liberties that our forefathers died for. That's the normal we need to go back to, because this was an epic failure on the part of public health.
I want to be, and you're almost reading my mind, because many of us, myself included, that addressed the council in public comments before that, or when Chad did during his, he went on after I and several others. We were in the Board of Supervisors office with no masks on. I addressed, and many of us addressed the board with no masks on. I was very impressed that Chad Bianco, our sheriff, came up there and was not wearing a mask on that. Particularly because when this first started and a couple of sheriff's deputies died, and he said, please wear the mask to protect. Now, if you're not going to do it for me, to that, he put out a PSA. I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'll get a clarification. But I'm sensing a change of that from Chad Bianco, at least admitting, yeah, they were scaring, and I can buy that. They were scaring him to death, probably with all
They made it terrifying.
Yes, they were terrifying him. But now that he's seen the data and saying the hell with this, and Jeff Hewitt was the first one up on the dais to toss the mask.
Yes, and that's what I mean when I say that, you can only make decisions based on the information that you're receiving.
Yes.
So I don't fault anyone. Everyone is not supposed to be an expert in medicine or an expert in defense or an expert in security or whatever. So we have to take the information that's provided to us by those people who are the presumed or appointed experts. So in the early days and even, week that it first was happening, I absolutely agree with you. They did what they should have done. They were responding to information that they were receiving from supposed experts. But it's no different. It would be like saying, if you listen to the weatherman and the weatherman says it's going to be sunny and warm, and you plan for that. But when you walk outside and it's snowing, you can't keep saying, but the weatherman said it's sunny and warm, okay? Because at some point you have to look at the reality, which is that it's sleeting sideways. So the expert who said it was going to be sunny and warm apparently was wrong. And to double down and say, yeah, but they said sunny and warm, so I'm going to put my shorts on, you're the one who looks like a fool then. So at some point, you have to acknowledge that the experts in this case, for whatever reason, whether it was purposeful or not, or whether they have a political agenda or not, it really doesn't matter. All we can say is that the models have been wildly wrong. I'm not listening to them any longer. Nobody should. We need to look at now what we know about this virus, the new studies that have come out showing, for example, that your risk of transmitting this virus, coronavirus, COVID-19, is 18.4 times higher if you are indoors than if you are outdoors. Big study out of Japan. Not twice as likely to transmit it, not 10 times as likely, 18.4 times more likely to transmit or contract this virus if you are inside than outside, which means we are, again, doing the exact wrong thing by not getting out. So right now, the temperature, the high today in Riverside County was 106 degrees. There is zero coronavirus out there right now in those temperatures, zero. So unless we have leaders, and that goes not just for Riverside County, but all the way up to the White House, unless we have leaders who are willing to look at what is actually happening, the data that is coming in, and say, okay, we had no choice but to listen to a handful of experts in the initial hours, but now we can see for ourselves, and we are willing to say, wow, we made some wrong decisions, and we are going to retreat. Not try to save face, not try to back ourselves slowly out of this corner, but do a turnabout, because right now the financial fallout from this is so tremendous, Roy, it just boggles the mind. For every 5% drop in GDP, we throw 147 million people into abject poverty. So, the global GDP, as it falls, we are absolutely plummeting people into abject poverty. We're going to be facing food shortages. There are huge issues that are going to result from this public health failure, and it's time that people look at the real facts and do an about-face.
I put over an hour and a half in 3 separate videos to the Board of Supervisors before Tuesday meetings, narrating and putting the documents and the science and data, even so, I don't know if they did it, but it was before them, including experts such as Dr. Kelly Victory on tape on this show, explaining this stuff. So they do not have, from this point forward, any excuse in my mind of saying we don't know what the science is, we don't know what the data is, we have all the information, or we have much more information to make this not just what certain people are spoon feeding this. So I think it's very important that we all go down, or anybody, especially in Riverside County, be it the Board of Supervisors office, call into their number, whatever it is, on Friday starting at 1 o'clock, and let your voice be heard. And what do you got to say to that, Kelly?
No, I absolutely agree with you. I think that the thing that's going to turn this around, truly, Roy, and I mean not just in Riverside County or in California, but nationally, frankly, I think it is going to be some element of civil unrest. It's going to be people going and speaking out saying, no, we're not going to take this anymore. Unfortunately, you have cases like, this poor salon, owner in Texas who's serving 10 or 7 days in jail and facing a $7,000 fine because she refused to back down and close her hair salon. But that's unfortunately what it's going to take, I think. People have got to get down to these meetings and speak out and say, we are peaceful, we are, but we are done. We are not going to allow bad data, bad science, and egos sitting in positions of power to continue this charade, because this is what it is. It is now a charade. This is not about a virus anymore, Roy. This is about control and about people trying to save face and keep hold of what they've gained in terms of authority and power during this fiasco. When the numbers finally come in, we will be able to prove what I've been saying since the beginning of the whole thing, since the end of January of this year, which is that this virus is going to end up being no worse than a bad influenza outbreak. The mortality rate overall will end up being less than 0.1%, same as influenza every single year. So unless you intend to do this every year during flu season, or unless you intend to live in a bubble, wear a mask, bathe in Lysol, and smother yourself with hand sanitizer on a daily basis going forward, then you better, look around. Every single day we are faced with pathogens, viruses, bacteria, things that we come in contact with that, yes, 1 in 20,000 people will die from exposure to that thing. But unless you intend to live hermetically sealed in a bubble, then get over it, because COVID-19 is not the big bad one. What the big bad one is going to be the economic fallout and the social and economic, psychological devastation from our response to this pandemic.
And before I throw it to Stephanie to get her to chime in on this, I want to thank you very much for, from the first time I heard of this and everybody starting the fear campaign, I said, I can't believe this is going on. I can't believe some of the people that are buying into it. And I think and really having a few stand-up people like yourself that did not back down and did not run in fear, or like Jeff, you had said, we did not get to be the greatest country in the world by being afraid. By not being afraid, by standing your ground and standing on the data, the science of this, that you knew you were right, you knew where you were going, and you didn't back down. That has helped give me some cover and confidence to keep going at the track I have been since the beginning, and I think we've been pretty much on the same track, and hopefully we will start turning a corner very soon. So I just wanted to give you those props of that on the show.
Well, I appreciate it, and it's as you well know, it doesn't come without a cost, because
Yes.
the powers that be don't like it when you don't stick to their narrative, and they do whatever they can to take you down, to discredit you. They will resort to character assassination if they need to.
Yeah.
It's an ugly world that way. But I believe that when history looks back on this, it will go down as a real mismanagement from a public health perspective. And I don't believe history will shine, will look kindly on the architects.
Your
Exactly.
final thoughts.
I honestly, I really do appreciate having you on. I think you do put a lot of, like Roy says, facts and take out a little bit of the fear I know for sure for me and some of our viewers as well. And I know how much backlash and you're probably getting by doing that. So make sure you always come back, because we love having you on. And so do a lot of our viewers. They're always writing in saying how much they appreciate you sharing all your wisdom with us.
Absolutely. I'm glad.
And it's always nice to hear your voice instead of Roy's for a while.
You always got to get a dig in there.
I do.
On that, prior to Bravo, the things are changing so fast. But again, thanks for all your efforts on this, standing your ground, standing up for not only what's right, but all the citizens, not only of Riverside
definitely.
County and America. And we will do this again real soon. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Kelly.
Absolutely.
Thank
Look
you,
forward to
Dr.
it.
Kelly.
Take care.
You too.
I just want to address a few of the comments that I was writing down. Stephen, yes, teachers do have a role in this. Their representatives are out
don't.
there, and they have the opportunity to go down there and correct this at Friday at 1 o'clock.
You need a word. Teachers, if you disagree, please go down Friday at 1 o'clock and voice your opinion. And we're not blaming you, because we
Yes.
do realize
And
that you're getting paid and you're still eating, and so are the students.
And
Distance learning sucks.
And yes, and if you want that to stop, and to Lucy, if the teachers of La Jolla want to go back to school and want their schools opened up, it is very important that they be down there and make that very
See, why don't you talk
clear
like that more often?
to that, because they need the motivation to get down there. And if hating on Roy is the motivation to get them down there, just hate on me all you want. But please, if you really are,
But don't hate on me. I have nothing to do with him.
if you really
I don't
want
even know
your
this guy.
schools open, teachers, then you better be down there or calling in, starting at 1 o'clock and making your voice heard.
And you can call in for all those teachers that are busy doing distance learning and Zoom meetings between like 11, well, actually like 9 and 2.
Because
Three.
Your
Teaching.
union representative, Harold A. Court, is recommending the schools be locked down, and the Then the candidate you endorsed, Daryl Peden, called in wanting the schools continued to lock down. So you have the opportunity now to correct that. We'll see where we stand on this. Of that.
Steven writes in, "We love you, Roy." No, we don't. Don't write that kind of stuff, or I will block you from our show thread. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But you know what? Why Dr. Kelly was talking, and there was some stuff that she made me think. So Facebook, I mean, they show everything all the time. Facebook is just a constant news feed. I have not seen anybody put on there about somebody having it or somebody being sick with it or anybody passing away from it. Isn't that kind of mind-boggling?
Yes, because it's been very, very, very
Or maybe
few.
a lot of people are just too afraid to let anybody know they have it.
No, I know 2 people that probably should have died from it that were well in their 70s and 80s that have had it and survived. So,
Carla said she loves watching. Even
thank
when
you,
we disagree.
Carla. We love you.
She likes
too.
me, not you. I love you, Carla.
You
I
can
don't know
hate
you,
on
but
me,
you're
but
great.
please let the supervisors know.
Scott writes in, the teacher union, as usual, not bragging on the teachers. You go, Scott! Okay, anyways.
That's it. We'll be back to it. Jeff Hewitt's going to be on tomorrow at 5:35. You won't want to miss it. Maybe we'll have Eddie George on that. But until tomorrow,
We're gone.